What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Hey, what's good? Kinell Sinister Cinema once again, and we're continuing our series about where I'm getting in some of my favourite battle rappers, some of the coolest people I know from battle rap, to talk about their favourite movies. And this one's a particularly special one. I've been looking forward to this one for a bit. Man like Marlo, aka Theo Marlow. Yes, using the full name for this one. Reason for that is if you're watching this on the weekend it drops, then the subsequent weekend will be Frightfest in London, Arrow Frightfest. I will be down there on the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday. Come speak to me. We'll have a drink, because that's what I do wherever I am. But anyway, Marlo has got a short film dropping out, and the big screen premiere will be at Frightfest. I've already seen it and it's absolutely banging. I love it. Really big fan of what he's done here. So I'm going to be catching it again. It's going to be on the Sunday and you can just catch individual tickets for that for like 15 quid if you don't want to watch any of the rest of the Frightfest stuff. It's in the second short film block on Sunday the 28th, 10:45 at the Prince Charles Cinema. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're going to be around Frightfest, head down there, check it out. It's going to be good. But anyway, like, Marlo is a top geezer. Like, you'll probably know him for his battles with Shuffle, his solo battles and all this. And if you know anything about Marlo the person, he is, like, he knows his films. Like, he really knows his films. Like, he's a great follow on Letterbox, so I reckon you do that. He's always watching dope shit. So, like, normally what I've been doing with these battle rapper episodes is just been having kind of a general chat, just kind of a vibes and thing. But this time, we're going to get a bit more specific in the horror territory. So, yeah, Marlo, KSC podcast, safe. Oh, okay, wow. Thank you there to me in the studio for introducing it. Now, you know this guy as the battle rapper Marlo, most likely, but today he is here in the context of writer and director Theo Marlow. And
yeah, let's go.
Yes, indeed. This is going to be going out. We're recording this a week ahead of time, but by the time you see this or hear this, if you listen on one of the audio channels, we will be mere days away from the big screen debut of your first ever shorts.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone forgot. Hi, by the way. Yeah, thanks. That's awesome. I forgot that, like, on ImDb, it's actually added my middle name for no reason. So it's got Kai. It's just on ImDb, but it's got Kai there. But yeah, man. So we've got a 20-minute short at Frightfest. Premiering on I believe it's the 28th, it's pretty exciting, but it's also strange that it's somehow strange that it's at Frightfest, like, in particular, because, like, I don't even know if it's a horror, you know. I'm like, it's a sort of, like, I consider that film, I mean, you've seen it, You know, I consider that film like a kind of like a dark film with, you know, like a dark mystery film maybe with some like comedic edges.
I think it falls into the kind of thing you'd see at Fright Fest, like, because I mean, like the sort of the what's considered horror is like way outside of just your standard slashes and psychological thrillers, like, you know, like it might not be horror per se, but it'll certainly appeal to a horror audience. And if anyone's wanting to reach down there, it's actually like the timing is like, I think it's like in the second shorts block, which is on the Sunday, the 28th of August at the Prince Charles and the 101 Discovery screen. And immediately after that shorts block is the brand new 4K restoration of Dog Soldiers.
Okay.
Yeah, introduced by Neil Marshall. So even if you're not around for the full festival, there's individual tickets available for it. So if you want to drop down, just check Marlo's short, check a few other things from some exciting upcoming directors, and then check Dog Soldiers. That's a pretty nice afternoon, to be fair.
Yeah, man. We're up first as well. So it's a bright and early 10:45, which might be bright and early for some people, I think. Yeah, just get a coffee down, yeah. And I assume that we're the first film just looking at the rundown of the list, but I don't know whether that, I don't think we're headlining the block. I think it means we're starting it, you know, because it's at the top and then it goes into much shorter shorts from there. Actually, we're the longest one at 20 minutes, and I think a lot of them are like 5 to 8 minute, you know, things. So maybe they're getting that longer run out the way and then going on to the real shorts.
Yeah, I think that's how they program shorts blocks in a lot of festivals, like, because if you hit one that's a bit longer after like some really short punchy ones, because there's some that are like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, like after that it seems like it's a lot longer than it is. Like it could do it a disservice. So having it up front will do it. As I say, I've seen it. I think it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on the big screen.
I appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
I don't want to dive too deeply into your film because I want people to go and see it, and like pretty soon after this, people will be able to like have their own opinions. And hopefully, we'll see a bit of that online. But with you being very much a man of the cinema, a very knowledgeable guy, and with it being like Fright Fest weekend. Like normally a lot of the conversations I've been having with battle rappers, check the previous ones of the series. We've got Shuffle, we got Tony, we got Frankie, we got Real Deal, all sorts of cool people. We've just been kind of having general chats, but you're a real cinephile, man. Like literally completely independent of each other. Nearly everyone I've had on has said you must get Marlo on. So
oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, no, but would you know what? It's a weird thing because I went through a big break from film watching kind of in general, because basically what it was I was always into films kind of growing up, got into like I'd be the guy down like the skate park and stuff, like filming kind of stunts and stuff, and got into like filmmaking, you know, with my mates through doing like Jackass, CKY type shit. But then actually was like really just into narrative cinema and like into film generally from then. And then I went to study it at uni. So like not even filmmaking, it was like history and like essentially like film like analysis and criticism.
yeah.
Which is like even funnier when people like bring up, you know, like, oh, it's uni guy, you know, like in battles and stuff. I was like, you don't know the half of it, mate. We were just sat around watching Blade Runner, you know, like it's quite, like it obviously wasn't like exactly like that, but you know, there's a lot more that went into it, and that's like what really kind of like whet my appetite a lot for just kind of general film watching. But then since after uni, like I went through a phase where I was, you know, obviously watching films, but just like far more kind of casual film viewer. And it wasn't until just after lockdown, I'd say, like the last couple of years, I've just been right back on it. Someone introduced me to Letterboxd. I was like, yes, now I've got a way, now I've got a reason, because it feels like a goal in my head to be like, I can log all of these films and everything that I'm you know, watching, and and it's been really kind of like eclectic since then. It's been very like mishmash. That I've never been sticking to like a certain like genre, even like a certain kind of director, like a certain film movement or anything. It's just been very random. A lot of it's been like scattered, just trying to fill in like a lot of blind spots that I might have had, like, you know, big kind of like gaping holes of just like film knowledge where I'm like, oh fuck, you haven't seen, you know, XYZ or whatever, and trying to just like watch that. A bit of it's been that, a bit of it's just been like just checking out the weirdest stuff I've been hearing on podcasts like yours, like just, you know, recommendations that might kind of come through. But I definitely wouldn't say that I'm like, the interesting thing, hopefully, with this discussion is that like I don't consider myself a horror like fan. I don't. I mean, I am. I'm a fan of just all films, but I definitely horror probably is the genre that like I've probably skewed to the least, like, you know, coming up, and that again is why it's interesting that I've like sort of accidentally but sort of not made a horror film. But I love it. I love the genre, but I would say that like it's been a lot more like I've been checking out far more kind of well celebrated films, maybe. Even in terms of like some of the weirder stuff, maybe some of like the classics and stuff. But what hopefully will be like great about this conversation is that like I know that you've seen like everything under the sun, like the weirdest shit, and so I'm looking forward to getting some recommendations that way as well, and like seeing what maybe we have in common with those films too. But yeah, man, so should be fun.
Yeah, so I asked you to like put a couple of films together, like, 'cause I mean, like, I was looking at this in terms of like, you know, going forward to Fright Fest. See, the thing is about horror fans is that we claim everything is horror, even when it isn't horror, which is how you end up. We'll say headlining the shorts block of our horror festival. So I think like a lot of cinema that's just dark in general, or just even just has dark tones, can like sort of fall into the envelope. So like, and we just call it horror, but
absolutely,
it's like when I'm in Wales, like we just call everything Welsh, like Batman, Christian Bale, Welsh, Addams Family, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Welsh. We just we just claim everything, so it's kind of one of them. But
that's a good shout.
Yeah, but did you manage to put a few names together for us?
I did, mate. I mean, I was like, to your point, I mean, basically, I've been very loose, shall we say, with the definition of a horror. And it's been mostly because what we were saying was like offbeat, right? It's like slightly weirder, slightly kind of films that make you kind of feel a bit uncomfortable. There isn't necessarily like blood and guts in the third act. There might be, but you know, it's not like a prerequisite or anything. So yeah, I've put a few together. I've basically sort of gone for like this extended definition of like what is offbeat, and I was trying to think like I imagined it's to mean like any film where the horror is almost sort of ever present, or there's something a little bit weird that starts the story. If you look at like a kind of like a genre horror in general, maybe like a slasher or something like Halloween or whatever, it maybe starts like with an equilibrium that then becomes you know, disrupted, and then you've got like, you know, the killer like at the very end. Things start to like slowly kind of unravel. Whereas like I really like the dark films where it's like just something is something is weird from like the get-go. Basically, it could be just like the tone that like the filmmakers are giving you, and that's sort of what I've gone with here. And I got my coffee. I've not got a beer yet. I know like beers is like your thing for the show, so I've got my beer to come like straight after the. Like,
I've got what should we call it? A Camden Hell glass full of water. So that's me for the evening. Like.
Oh really? That's
Yeah, it's normally a very beery show, but this particular one isn't because I couldn't be bothered walking to the shop.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I'll be beering for us then, but only after only after midnight.
Yeah. Okay. With that being said, do you want to hit me with your first selection?
Yeah, man. So like I went with like a kind of one that really kind of unsettled me, bit of a sort of classic. I think first, like we could talk about this one. I haven't really put these in any kind of order, but the first one I've gone with is Eyes Without a Face, from
Les yeux sans
1960.
visage.
Les yeux sans visage. Yeah, man. Have you seen this?
I did do years ago when like I had like this in my like late teens, early 20s. I had like this big phase where I was like trying to be like the film nerd that I am now, and I was like watching lots of like quite old and arty stuff and not really understanding it, like just so I could say I'd seen it. And I kind of saw it in that phase, but I haven't seen it like as an adult, like, so I need to go back to it. Like,
well, that phase that you were in is basically the phase that I'm sort of in now, and like trying to work out the like most the most dignified way that I can escape it. But basically, like, but I'm sort of like in my kind of, I'll watch something and like let it wash over me. And I'm just, to be honest, at the moment, like not in a very kind of like critical minded, headspace with this stuff. I'll just kind of watch it. That's it. But Eyes Without a Face is one of those films that was like, I saw it maybe about half a year ago, and then I rewatched it for this. But it sort of had always stayed with me for that like half a year, because it's so fucking creepy. By George Franu, from 1960, and he was a guy who came up during the French kind of silent film era, the cinema fantastique, all that kind of stuff, like when the silent, like George Méliès and those guys like were making like silent films and stuff. And I think from what I understand, he mostly kind of made documentaries, and this was only his second like narrative film. And yeah, it's just really creepy and bizarre. It's basically like this top plastic surgeon, like professor guy, who's kind of well renowned. Basically, the film already starts with a kind of mystery, because you quickly learn that his daughter is missing, and presumed dead. And then he gets a call to the morgue. But you see the morticians like just before they make the call to him, where it's like he gets a call, and then this other dad, or a potential dad of a girl who's gone missing, also gets a call at the same time. And then like this top plastic surgeon guy arrives first, looks at the body and says, yes, that's my daughter. Goes away all distraught. On the way out, he runs into this other dad, but they're not bothering to see him anymore or show him the corpse now, because they've already got a positive ID from the main guy. And then it turns out that that was a body that they had they disposed of, and he's actually keeping his daughter in hiding after this car crash that like massively disfigured her face. And he is just obsessed with trying to skin graft on a new face onto her.
Like, and this is a very early film, and all like skin grafting is not the kind of thing that's going on. Like,
not hugely. And then basically you quickly learn that what they're doing is going out on the hunt for girls who look similar to his daughter, just so they can bring them there and take their face off. It's basically the original Face Off film. It set the template so that it walked so that Nicolas Cage and John Travolta could run. Boy did they run. And it's got one of the most gruesome, like I think way more so than you see in Face Off, like in terms of a face removal scene and a skin grafting scene. Like it's one of the most like horrific things that like, because the sound design and everything that you get with it is just pretty crazy. And then you get this like face that's just literally lifted off of this of this girl, and the way they achieve it is incredible. It's just amazing. Apparently people fainted when it premiered in Edinburgh. It didn't when it had the UK premiere. in Edinburgh, apparently people fainted, and at that scene in particularly.
That makes sense. It's
amazing.
an incredibly visceral scene, you know, in an incredibly visceral film. Like, you know, if anyone's like listening, that's sort of only like really familiar with modern cinema, you probably have no idea that there is like cinema that this old that gets this graphic, and like you say, even down to the sound design.
Yeah, I mean that adds to it. That adds so much to it. And do you know what? A weird part of it actually is, I think the main thing I responded to the first time I saw that film was like, what you don't see is where the horror is, because like he forces your imagination to fill in the gap, and that is the thing that makes it really, really scary. So basically, the girl, Christiane, you know, this guy's daughter, she's walking around the house basically like feeling sorry for herself. Obviously, I mean, her face has come off, you know, you would, but she's wearing like basically like a Joey Jordison mask, like just around everywhere, just kind of, you know, and it's that in itself is haunting enough. But then
I really wouldn't be surprised if this was some kind of influence on Slipknot. Like,
I completely thought that the first time I saw it. I was like, yeah, Joey must have seen that and been like, this is my vibe, because that was his first mask, was like in like their really early days, was literally just the eyes without a face. It's just like there's something really haunting about there being nothing, and like the lack of like any features. Yeah, blank. Yeah, exactly.
The blank theatre mask, like, you know, and you know, it's like you have the images of like the classic sort of French theatre image of like the happy and sad masks that you'd see as a thing, like, and like that was like kind of like the iconography that represented like the theatre at the time, which was obviously like one of the biggest art forms in France. And then to just flip it on its head by this and just make it this graphic and artistic, because really, like, you know, you had like the Grand Guignol coming out of France, like prior to that, like, so like, France was where they were doing the graphic stuff, but like that was just stage tricks, and like this was something that's so graphic and so realistic, like it's.
I didn't know like where it sort of fit, because, you know, like obviously my history on this kind of stuff is just, you know, it's much of a muchness. I'll find like a little you know, fact here and there or whatever, but obviously it kind of sits slightly within when the French New Wave was kicking off and stuff, even though it's not like experimental much or anything. But it was a thing that apparently, you know, French films like that hadn't gone to those depths with horror and hadn't really done much, you know, like with horror in the sound era, like you know, too much up until then, from what like the basic research I've done there. Although I probably think of a few. Like another film I was thinking to bring up was Le Diabolique. Do you know that one?
Oh yeah.
Oh mate, that one,
incredible piece of work.
That one sort of messed my wife and I up when we watched it too. We were just like, this is, you know, like there's a pretty great twist, you know, kind of reveal type thing to that, but
incredibly well constructed like story in that as well, like, and
it's
like the fact that it came out around the same kind of time as Hitchcock's Psycho, maybe a bit earlier, like
that's right. He was, so what wasn't it that the director was trying to outdo? No, sorry, he wasn't. But then Hitchcock saw Le Diabolique and then made Psycho, because he was like, I still need to be the master of suspense.
Yeah. I need to be the guy, and I'm not the guy while this is out.
I am the fucking man. You're not going to take my crown. And then just was like, and you know, you can now just watch those two films almost side by side and be like, well, okay, like, I mean, it's an amazing double bill, I'm sure, like to do Diabolique and then Psycho. But yeah, with this one, with Eyes Without a Face, it another little factoid I found out was that they had to like appease all these different European censors, like for all these, and remove like aspects that were in the original novel source material, which was not to include too much blood, which would upset the French censors. Refrain from like animals getting tortured, which would upset English censors, and then leave
no
out
one else in Europe.
Yeah, no one else would care. But also only English.
Yeah.
So like not spreading it to the whole of the UK. And then like apparently leaving out the mad scientist character, which would upset the Germans. So and supposedly all of this was in the original. I don't know the original, novel or anything, but he did a good job to kind of remove it. And then they also did like I've not seen this, but they did in the States when they released it in the States. It was called The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus. Yeah, and they just totally edited it and made some new version. So I'd be interested to see that, but I don't.
That's a theme that's always like run through American cinema. Like a lot of the Italian films get re-edited and renamed, like right through to the 70s and 80s. I suppose you could even like take it through to like Power Rangers, where they flip in like which was a Japanese TV show that they edited to be more powerful, palatable to American audiences. The Americans have never been shy with re-editing stuff for their own tastes. Yeah, but it's a massive market, and these things have to be done.
Yeah. And then it's like in some cases you got to really check the label and check the box to see what you might be watching, because you never know when the US when the Americans might have got their hands on it. Yeah. And I don't know, fuck things up. But yeah, so that's my. I don't know. I'm not putting these in any kind of any real order, because again, I don't know if these would even be like my top 5 of this, but it's quite, because it's such a malleable and such a broad definition.
It's
kind of horror. It's sort of a lot. Yeah,
like things are like so far out of whack between these. Like the things vary so much. There's no way you could sort of put these kind of films into order. And on that note, I'm going to hit you with a selection, and mine's a much more recent one.
Go on.
This one is called Spring, and it's by Benson and Moorhead. You familiar with Benson and Moorhead?
I'm not, mate. I want to know this. Go on. I'm looking it up. I'm
pretty sure this was from 2009. And Benson and Moorhead, the filmmakers who went on to do The Endless, Resolution. They did what was the one? Synchronic with Anthony Mackie in was one of their most recent ones.
Yeah. So this is 2014, and this looks cool. Yeah, I know The Endless. I've seen The Endless. I think when it first came out, but I'm not familiar with this one.
Spring is like it kind of like what you call it. All their films kind of fit together. They're all kind of like, but they're not related. There are a couple where like some characters pop up. There's a point in The Endless when some characters from Resolution, the movie they made 5 years earlier, popped up. But that film's very much about time loops and all this kind of thing. And like, although none of their films are like directly related, they're all kind of set in this world where something is off. And it's kind of off in these days we'd call it a cosmic horror kind of a way. But previously we'd call it like a Lovecraftian kind of way.
Yeah.
We don't call anything Lovecraftian now because people try to avoid naming H.P. Lovecraft when they found out the name of his cat, which I will not be naming on here. But yeah, Spring was one of their first ones that really broke through. I got this on Love Film, back when we were sending discs back and forth through the post, and that was how you'd get DVDs. But Spring concerns a lad he's in a bad place in life in general. He's working in this bar. He's kind of like getting into trouble a lot. And when people are in those phases where they haven't really got a direction, and maybe their relationship's ended, so they're just kind of like just getting into a lot of trouble because they're not really headed in any kind of given direction. And those kind of times, you've got to displace yourself. So after getting into a fight while he's working at the bar that he works at, someone suggests maybe you should go away for a bit. chuck a little dart and chuck a little dart in the map. Go experience some new things. Go and reset. Get a fresh look on life. So he heads down to Italy, where he meets this girl whilst backpacking. He also meets some some like lads from the UK on the way. Like,
that's the real horror.
Oh yeah,
right there.
It does actually feature the phrase that has haunted both our lives, like, the Cockney lad from England going, "You ever heard of 8 Mile?"
Did they actually say that in this film?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Where the character's saying, like, he jumped on stage in a rap battle and ended up glassing someone. But,
in Italy, was it? Or...
yeah.
That's great.
He's talking about back home.
Right.
But yeah, something's kind of like he instantly falls in love with this girl, and it is very much a love story, but something is off, like, and
yeah,
and there's the implication that she's like possibly some kind of like alien or otherworldly monster, but it's never really explained what. But something's happening, and it's dealing with this quite like metaphysical sort of subject matter, and it's also like quite graphic in places, dealing with some actual body horror. But at its core, it's a love story.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
beginning
brilliant.
to end. That's what it is. It's about, is it a doomed romance? But how doomed is doomed?
That's excellent when that can be pulled off really well. I'm really interested to watch this. It, like what you just said there about it being sort of basically just like a love story, reminded me a bit of Midsommar. I don't know if that's on your list. It was maybe like a kind of, I might have brought it into it or not, but like just the fact that that's at its heart just literally a breakup film. So that's really impressive when a filmmaker can just kind of, or filmmakers in this case, use like a kind of a positive, take like a positive human emotion, or just the romance genre, or whichever way you want to look at it, and kind of wield that to a kind of extreme or like unsettling kind of end. But yeah, man, this looks really interesting.
Yeah.
So you said you got this on the original discs that you used to, because it was Love. Yeah, it was Love Film. I remember that over here.
Yeah, that was how Netflix started and all.
Yeah, because it was Netflix in the States, wasn't it? And then they must have bought like Love Film or something, but or the other way around. I can't remember. Well, no, I mean clearly Netflix, then brought everything online. But yeah, man, this looks great.
Yeah, it's I find that it's one thing that flipping filmmakers love to say. They say, "Oh, it's this genre, but actually it's a love story." And normally they're just talking bollocks. Normally they just mean. Normally, when you actually watch the film, oh, you've just got a love interest in a genre film. Stop lying. But this really is a love story, and it's quite touching.
Normally you get them in like behind the scenes, like featurette documentaries and stuff, and they're just like, at its core, it's like at its core, it's a love story.
Really, it goes back to Romeo and Juliet. Like, no, it's a story with a love interest. That's all of them, nearly all of them. Yeah. So, do you want to hit me with your next selection?
Yeah, man. So I think seeing as you did quite a fairly recent one as well, I've got a few of the recent ones on here too. I think like a good one that hasn't been like, it's it's not a masterpiece by any means, and I think it's been like fairly averagely kind of reviewed, but I think is really effective, is The Perfection from 2018. This is a Richard Shepard film. It's got Alison Williams a year after doing Get Out, and like clearly like having a taste for just kind of weird psychological thrillers and horrors, and like being able
material.
Yeah, exactly. Like sort of being able to play like that kind of strange, maybe something's up with this person character, and I think she's like the strongest like part of this film. But basically, so the premise is Alison Williams plays this like quite well accomplished cellist, or at least like she was a bit of a child prodigy as a cellist at this like the top #1 school for cellists in the world. And but what has happened is that she's had to leave as a teenager. We learn pretty quickly to go and care for her like elderly nan who was sick. And then so we join her as an adult, and her nan has just died. So she goes off to Shanghai. And this is the first time we see her. She's like going and to a performance ran by this school, the Back Off School, which is a really funny name for a back off. The Back Off School for cellists, and they're there doing this like really grand kind of performance of their like child prodigies. And their #1 child prodigy, who is there too, played by Logan Browning. And then Alison Williams and Logan Browning kind of have this. They basically get it off. And they have like a fling together that night, and then they wake up the next morning. Things are a little sort of strange for Logan Browning. Like she starts to feel a little bit sick. She's complaining about headaches, that sort of thing. They've made this plan to like essentially like slum it across Shanghai on like sort of buses and hitchhiking and all this kind of stuff. They go on this bus, and like Logan Browning starts to feel more and more and more sick, and she's like got a headache, and then she's complaining about stomach problems, and then the next thing you know, she's puking up bugs onto the window, and sort of seeing things, and then it feels like bugs are like inside her arm and stuff. And then next thing you know, after that, like they're in the middle of nowhere. This bus just has obviously no facilities or anything like that. There's nowhere that they can stop that is going to be helpful. She clearly needs to get to a hospital. She then starts shitting herself. They get thrown off the bus. They're sort of freaking out in the middle of like wilderness, and she's complaining about seeing these bugs running up through her skin and like especially like down her arm. Next thing you know, Alison Williams pulls out a butcher's knife and says, "You know what you got to do." She hands her the butcher's knife, and she chops her own arm off, and that's the first act. So
that's a strong intro. Strong intro.
So then it just gets weirder and weirder from there. And again, yeah, it feels like one of those ones where it's like you could not. I mean, the very sort of first start of it, something's sort of weird, but it doesn't feel like a horror necessarily. Yeah. It's sort of there's something dark and ominous, kind of like boiling beneath the surface. But yeah, I don't know anything by like this director, but anything else by this director, Richard Shepard. I this was just one that they sold to Netflix, and
I think it got hit with a bit of unfortunate timing because like if you look like a lot of people seem to really like it, but it seems to be getting like kind of unfairly rated. And I think the reason for that is that it was produced by Miramax.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's never going to be good timing around then.
Yeah, and around 2018, things weren't going particularly well for Harvey Weinstein, and he was selling off amazing movies to Netflix because he needed to liquidate everything as quickly as possible.
And I'll be honest, when the film goes to the places that it goes, and it has, unfortunately, some like horrible connective tissue to that to those themes, and to exactly why Harvey Weinstein went down, and like yes, like so I can totally understand why the kind of timing is. And also, like I say, it's kind of like it's been very averagely reviewed, and I kind of agree with that. I scored it like 3.5, and it's like I say, it's by no means a masterpiece. It's not. It's also like potentially there's some kind of like lazier themes in the story that we've maybe seen 100 times before. But what I love about it, what I really responded to, was just that I realized that I love to be watching a film and have and really be truly watching it and have no idea, and I could say to myself, like, I have no idea what's coming next. Like it, when something is so offbeat and everything preceding that thought is unexpected, you haven't seen it coming at all. This just to give it a quick shout as well is why I think Nope was so effective recently from Jordan Peele. I know you haven't seen it yet, but like that, you probably get that sense even from, like, I don't know, trailer or whatever you might have seen before, but like, you don't.
I've avoided the trailers. I'm off to see it tomorrow though, so
good idea. Okay, cool. So I won't say too much about that, but it's like, that's why I love it when a film just is just totally unexpected, from beat to beat, not necessarily like these big kind of grand reveals or anything, just like, oh wow, that visual's interesting, wow, like we're watching that kind of film now. Oh no, wait, we're watching this. Oh wait, sorry, and that's exactly what this film does. Like
this is it. Like, the more films you watch, the harder it is to, like, sort of catch you off guard. So, like, it's something I'm always looking for at this point. Yeah, I remember, like, I was like flipping. I refused to, like, flipping have Netflix at one point for some reason that I can't even remember now. But I've got a Netflix account now, so I'll flipping get on it and I'll check that later.
Yeah, I think you'd like it, man. Hopefully I haven't given away too many of the kind of stronger beats at the start, but I do think you'll dig it.
Yeah, I'll get on that, man. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to start running back, but for my next recommendation, I'm going to go for about as new as I could possibly come out with. This came out today and I watched it 3 hours ago.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. This is Glorious, which is an exclusive that's just been released to Shudder. And
okay.
I was just watching this film earlier, like, obviously it wasn't any kind of list I put in advance, didn't even know it was coming out. It's just like, it was just at the top of the app when I opened it today. But this is directed by Rebecca McKendry, who does the All the Colors of the Dark podcast. And it's a good one for concept, like.
Yeah.
It's a good one for concept. And I'd say this is also, like, it does also sort of in a similar way to Spring does, in the way that it's like it's cosmic horror in that there's something cosmic going on, but we don't really see any of it. And that was the whole thing with H.P. Lovecraft. It was always the unnameable, what was going on behind the sort of scenes. And this is set almost entirely in a public toilet. Quite a literal chamber piece.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I've already added it to my watch list. Go on.
Yeah. It's a guy who, like, for whatever reason, as just had some kind of bad breakup with his missus. He's not dealing with it very well. He's driving around. He's crying into a teddy bear. He pulls over, gets hammered on an entire bottle of scotch, and wakes up in a public toilet. So far,
as you do,
so my average Saturday. Yeah.
It was a film. It was just written for you, mined from your mind.
Yeah, where it varies from my story is that there's a glory hole which comes into play in this toilet, hence the name Glorious.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, excellent. He wakes up in the toilet cubicle, and a voice, which in this case is J.K. Simmons, is coming from the next cubicle.
I was sold before, but now you've really, I'm buying stock already. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, and he starts talking to him like, so what have you doing? How have you ended up here? Like, I know a few things about you. And it's very much like, it's all like, most of it is a chamber piece, a conversation between this unseen figure coming from this glory hole and this dude who's just got pissed and woken up in a bog. And
this is, and this isn't a comedy. Is it a horror comedy, would you say? Or is it
it straddles the line nicely, which a lot of films can't really do. Like, I find, like, you're either making a horror themed comedy or you've got like a horror film with a couple of jokes in it. No one really it's very hard to get the balance right. I'd say
Absolutely
this
right.
does, like, because it goes to some very dark places and like hits some strong emotional beats as we find out more about the characters and whatever J.K. Simmons is. But it also manages to be pretty humorous, like, and you know, it's set in a toilet. Everything that happens in the toilet is funny.
I mean, literally, that
Unless
could
you're
be on the
fucking
poster.
J.K. Rowling and you think that every trans woman's going into a toilet to commit sexual assault, but a 14-year-old boy in a co-ed school with a cloak of invisibility won't. But,
yeah, exactly. Inventing problems that don't exist. Yeah. That's amazing. Literally a chamber piece. So yeah, excellent.
I was very impressed with it. I thought it'd be a bit of a giggle, but it did manage to like hit some remote, some sleight of hand, some switches with the plot. Is everyone who you think you are? I mean, like I'm not giving too much away to say that J.K. Simmons isn't just a bloke in a toilet. There's something else going on, something grander on a more cosmic scale.
Sorry, go on.
There's something going on a more like cosmic scale, but we spend all our time in this toilet and it all comes out through the conversation. And I really like things like that do that. I was saying to Shuffle when he was on that there's something about that Twilight Zone about it, like.
I heard your.
Started watching it, like loads of the Twilight Zone episodes, they were like based on plays or whatever, or like because they were low budget, it'd just be one location and like things would just come out just through conversation. And I think that's carried through to here nicely, like.
Brilliant. I mean, this is totally my kind of single location stuff is totally kind of my bag, because it basically forces the writers, the director, really everyone working on it, like they got to focus on character so much, and focus on and like scenario. You can't get away too much with more kind of like potentially like flashy visuals. I mean, maybe in this case you can, I don't know, but I'm really I'm very sold on this. I think probably when you said it's set in a toilet, that could probably, by the sounds of it, just be on the poster.
They managed to keep it like very visually interesting, considering like the sort of limitations. Like to be honest, I think there's a little nod to queer cinema because you've got a bit of the old Joel Schumacher bisexual lighting going on.
Excellent.
And obviously something that like this is going to like live or die by its two performances, and you can only see one guy. But when the guy who's effectively just a voice is J.K. Simmons.
Right. I was going to ask, do you actually see, there's literally going to be my next question was, do you actually see J.K. Simmons, or is it just a voice the whole time? That's wicked. It like reminds me, did you see The Guilty? Not the fucking Jake. They basically remade it with Jake Gyllenhaal for absolutely no reason other than people clearly can't be bothered to read subtitles. But there was like the Danish or Norwegian, I can't remember. It was the original version of the film. Do you know about that film, The Guilty?
It was one where I like kind of switched the Jake Gyllenhaal version off halfway, and it kind of like killed my desire to go back to the original.
I'm so sorry. No, I saw the original before they even like considered like this Jake Gyllenhaal version, and like it was just one of those gems that you fall on. You're like, this is amazing. Like everything obviously set in the kind of dispatch, not dispatch. What's the word? The emergency response call people. And the original is just really effective, but like where something can just be set in that single location and like hold the viewer's attention for so long. And like this sounds like it would be a real like it could kind of marry up to that film a little bit if it's literally just so it's Ryan Quanten, is that right? By the looks of it, like it's just the one person that you actually see, and then it's just the other character is just a voice, and it's just that's it in one this setting.
Kind of thing will live or die on what should we call it, its performances, and the performances are there, and the script is certainly there, and like they managed to keep this going out. They managed to avoid being annoyingly quirky, which I find is like the trap that a lot of people fall down, like when they're making a film that has this kind of description.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I might double bill this with Batman and Robin.
Oh, hell yeah.
Just to get that Joel Schumacher vibe, like properly on deck. But no, this sounds amazing. It's on Shudder, is it?
Yeah, just dropped today.
Wicked. Well, what I might do then is fuck it. I saw a film today for the first time that I might make the next one I bring up. And the reason I'll do it,
let's go.
The reason I'll do it is because I know you, based on your letterbox, have seen it 3 times at least already. So I know it's going to be an interesting conversation. You'll probably have more to say, but that is Nobuhiko Obayashi's House from 1977.
Yeah, I love that film.
And this, I mean, this definitely qualifies for an offbeat horror, if anything does. I found it like I rate pretty much every film like actually with a star score or whatever, on Letterboxd when I put it on there. But when it's like an experimental film, I find it really difficult to know like what do I score this thing. I watched The Holy Mountain recently, right? Just like acid trip from the 60s, experimental thing, and like I just like all I know is I liked it, and this is the same with this film. And I mean, this thing is just like so unconventional in its approach to basically every single aspect. The whole thing feels like a kind of mix between a kind of 80s sitcom intro, like the entire like edit of the film just sort of feels like that sort of American suburban nostalgia weirdness, like kind of, and then just like strange kind of like every aspect of the filmmaking in this is just like experimental to a T. Like they basically experiment with every single different thing you can behind a camera. Like at one point it's just for some reason like at half the shutter speed or something. So like everything feels like it's flickering a little bit more, and it's just creating this more kind of dangerous like feeling. It's kind of a horror comedy. Like it's very sort of it's really bizarre. I can't explain it other than the plot is just 7 girls go to one of the out in Japan. They go out to one of the girls' auntie's house, who she's sort of talking about the legacy of this aunt, and how she's.
It's a cabin in the woods setup, effectively.
It is, yeah, exactly. And they go out there, and basically she's like the aunt is like a lonely widow who still believes that her ex-husband who went to war something like 50 years ago or whatever is like still exists or something, or sorry, is still alive and is gonna come back there. And at first she's kind of happy to see all the girls there, and then just things as a cabin in the woods film would go awry from there,
in a particularly surreal manner. Like
totally. I mean, I'm still reeling from it now. Like I say, I just checked it out today because I there was something with it. Like it's on the BFI player, and I've been meaning to watch it for ages. And then I knew we were doing this, and I was like, oh, this might be like something that I might mention, like on the side of it. But you've seen it a few times, right?
Yeah. It's a pretty regular watch for me. Like I say, I've logged it about 3 times, and but I'll only log something if I've like properly like watched the film. But it's a film that I'll just sometimes whack on just for vibes.
Yeah, it really like. I want to know. Yeah, I want to come to the party when that's the vibes of it. It's totally like batshit.
Yeah.
What a batshit film.
It's hard to compare it to things because it's considered an influential film, but no one really takes direct influence from it because how would you? It's just a lot of filmmakers say, nah, I just love it.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is it.
there's some things that I can't like. I even see a bit of its energy in something like the Twin Peaks series.
Yeah,
which
totally.
Which is like this surreal sort of demonic, like a murder mystery sort of series, but it's shot like an American sitcom. Like,
well, I would even say that compared to House, Twin Peaks is like tame. Like by comparison, it's like calm. You know, it's a bloody Transformers movie. You know, compared to like in like convention. But you're absolutely right. Like some of those dream sequences in well, pretty much any Lynch actually would be, but definitely in like in Twin Peaks, you can see that like maybe there's been something pulled from this, but what I mean, I don't know, like I enjoyed it. I think with like an asterisk.
I think anyone's first watch of Houseu is just vibes.
Yeah, man.
I say, it's like a film I watch a lot. Like I'm not sure I could talk you through the plot.
No,
I can tell you the setup.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like your first watch of Houseu is just vibes. Brilliant.
Oh well, that's like the best way to sell it, really. But isn't it? But yeah, check it out. It's I think it's probably on Arrow as well. It's like crosses across Arrow and BFI. Yeah. And like I was looking at the runtime of Glorious, which is a glorious 79 minutes. So anything now under 90, I'm like, oh shit, I'll put that on right now. That's a lunch break. Yeah, you know, I can whack another letterbox entry in just on my lunch break or whatever. So that's
79 minutes. That's a good time for a well-constructed chamber piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flipping, you've got a feature-length film, but nothing's outstaying its welcome.
Yeah, 100%. So I thought, because seeing as you watched one today, I'll throw one that I watched in for the first time today.
Nice.
For that,
Okay, I'm going to hit you with another one. I'm
Go for it.
Just going to double check if this one's still on the Arrow player. And
nice.
This is one called After Midnight, directed by Jeremy Gardner. And it's still up on Arrow if you want to watch it there. And this is another like very, very minimal one. Like Jeremy Gardner is like, he's in all kinds of these like sort of low key, like indie sort of like genre adjacent films. Like the first film that he kind of like came through with was it was called The Battery, which is like it's a zombie film, but it's like almost entirely about the relationship between the main two characters who are baseball players. One's the pitcher, one's a batter, and one's the catcher. And that's called The Battery, apparently. I don't know baseball terms like that.
Yeah.
And it's mostly about their relationship. And I love that film, The Battery, which and that was on the second disc when when Arrow put out their new film After Midnight. After Midnight, like this one is like it's very low key, and it might not even be a genre film for the guts of it, because like ultimately it's about what this film is about is it's a guy who lives in a house. He did live there with his missus. It's in like this very, very quiet, sleepy town where barely anyone lives. Got this house in the middle of nowhere, and she's like gone to visit her mates in New York and like left a letter, and she might not come back. And that's mostly what the film is about. But also he's convinced that there's like some monster outside attacking his house that only comes at night, after midnight. Okay. But, not many people believe him. The local cop, who's his like brother-in-law, isn't convinced. And his mate helps him out, played by Henry Zabrowski of The Last Podcast on the Left, who's very good in this. And this one's low key, I believe like the genre where it's like this really quiet, almost like kind of Slackers vibe. Those films like Slackers, they call them mumblecore.
Yeah, of course.
Like when people do a film like this, that's kind of like genre adjacent, but it's still like that. The term I've heard is mumble gore, which I quite like.
Yeah. Excellent.
I'd say like Jeremy Garner. He's the guy of for that genre, that very very specific subgenre.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the first time I watched it was like I cried the first time I watched it, and it might have been due to my emotional flipping state at the time. Like, I was going out with a girl from London at the time, and we were like 4 weeks into 3 weeks I watched it 4 weeks into 3 weeks to stop the spread of lockdown.
Oh shit.
You know when it was the first like, actually this might not be 3 weeks.
Yeah. We did, slowly sinking in the realization. Yeah. I remember that time well.
it was them ones like something like so like the film hit me pretty emotionally hard, like because I'm also in my what should we call it, in my home alone, and flipping I might not be able to see my girlfriend. I'm not sure if I'll ever see her again. So it really got to me like that.
Oh mate. Well, I'm definitely I mean I'm adding all of these to my watch list. Jeremy Gardner's in Spring as well then.
He's kind of just at the start of this one.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, he's kind of just at the start of. He's kind of just at the start of Spring. Like he's like very much he's very much an actor in a lot of these films. Like, but The Battery and After Midnight, he wrote and directed with his mates. Like Jeremy Gardner, like flipping pops up at like he's kind of like a go-to actor for the kind of like indie genre things that I watch. Like, so like, I think I've watched every film he's been in, like completely unrelated. Like it's just something I'll be watching. And he'll turn up at some point. Like Fingers was another one. Bliss.
And is this like kind of one of those unreliable narrator type things? Then you don't know quite whether they're actually gaslighting him, or what he's saying is true, or is it that kind of thing where it's like people don't really believe him about the monster and stuff, or is it just is it like where we know, you know?
Oh, we don't we don't know nothing throughout the entire film, like, and most of it might just be a mental breakdown, like I felt like I was having all at the time, like.
Yeah, wicked. So we're not actually sure, like we follow this guy, but like it's not 100% whether a bit like The Invitation. I know you and Shuff spoke about The Invitation, which is fucking amazing as well. But like, like it's sort of like we don't know whether he's telling the truth or not, kind of thing.
Well, it's not that we don't know. It could all be in his head.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there's one just for a quick shout out was this Terence Fisher film from 1950 that I just heard on a podcast recently, and then just like checked out recently, which is another one of those kind of like slightly, you know, is it all in their head? Yeah, you know, or is it, you know, but no, because we've actually seen as an audience that something hasn't gone wrong, and that's a film called So Long at the Fair. From 1950, and recently watched it. I know I think it's all on YouTube. Actually, you can watch the whole thing there, and that's just like, I just want to give that a shout, because that's like, those kind of ones where it's like you're not 100% sure, like either way, and you want to go along with this guy, but you know, not, it's never 100%. Wicked, man. I've added that to my watch list.
Okay, hit me with another.
Yeah, nice, man. So the next one is, I would say, might be like the most kind of taking liberties with the kind of horror. I think it's very horror adjacent, but with the definition, I think, you know, taking some liberties here, but it has some horrific, you know, aspects to it. It has some like kind of elements, and I think that the entire thing is just totally fucking bizarre and unsettling. And it's Dogtooth from 2009, Yorgos Lanthimos. which they made for 250,000 euros. Just drumming it up, I think through like Beg, Boren and Stealing just back in Greece in 2009. And yeah, man, it's an incredible film. I love this film. It's weird as hell. Have you seen Dogtooth?
What's it called? I saw it drunk, which was not the way to see it. Yeah, I have familiar. It's more like that deserves going back to sober. Like
Definitely.
It was kind of like just washing over me, but I was in it. I was in it.
Yeah. I mean, to have this film wash over you is that's. I mean, especially I think it's one you need to go back and watch sober, and then consider like getting more drunk for the next viewing than you were the first time. Maybe I don't know, but. Yeah, so this, like, basically, I don't know if it was his first feature. I think it might be his first feature. It certainly wasn't his first film. I know he'd made shorts and stuff before 2009. Obviously, Yorgos Lanthimos goes on to make, like, The Lobster and The Favourite then, and, Alps, which I think is a really great...
the Killing of a Sacred Deer and...
Killing the Sacred Deer, yeah, and this whole thing is like he's establishing
all the genre. He's kind of a genre unto himself, like.
Oh, mate, literally.
You watch his films and you know it's one of his instantly, and it's not from the way that it's filmed. It's not from the way it's shot. It's from like the feeling you get watching his films.
And the main thing is the actors.
Yeah,
and the performances and the style of performance that he gets out of them. I think that's a really great way of putting it, is that he's a genre unto himself. I mean, you could literally just describe Yorgos Lanthimos. That's the film. So he has, and I think this is the film. I haven't seen his shorts or I don't know if he had a feature before this, but basically I haven't seen anything before this. This is the earliest work that I've seen of his. But it's where he like 100% like establishes this this style, which is somehow these characters are like otherworldly, like they're alien. They don't quite know how to. He has his actors perform in a way where it's like they don't know how to express emotion until there's maybe a moment where they do, but even that feels like muted and strangely kind of like reserved. And it's like
almost like how I'd describe it is like it's almost like there's an autistic disconnect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I do think that's probably good. Yeah. It's I mean, basically, like,
yeah. It's like the characters exist in a real world, but it doesn't feel real. And
no, it's effectively like they've just turned up on the set and like he's asked, Colin Farrell or whoever it is, to just literally read the lines off of the page and don't show kind of any, emotion with it. And obviously when he goes on to his English language films, like a little bit later, then he starts working with like Colin Farrell and like Olivia Colman and, they even have Ewan McIntosh in The Lobster. I mean, it's just, everyone, Keith from The Office. And then obviously like Nicole Kidman is in there, Barry Keoghan, like in like these sort of later ones. But yeah, his original kind of his films in Greek are like no different. In fact, I would say probably weirder and more kind of surreal than those.
I needed to watch his English films to understand what was happening in the Greek films. If I wasn't familiar with his English movies beforehand, like I just think like, is this just too much of a disconnect because of the language and I'm not understanding it? Because I'd seen that's how he makes his films in English. Then I knew what it was. I needed to understand that. I thought, like, is this just what Greek films are like? And
do Greek people not show any emotion or like speak in just like strange matter-of-fact ways? And like Dogtooth is just crazier than that in itself, because essentially the story is there's these two parents who live on this like way out kind of like gated house that we kind of learn is I think is like away from civilization, like it's kind of out in some kind of wild land somewhere. I don't know. Anyway,
oh,
they
hang on,
keep
it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah, man. So they keep their 3 adult children there. The 3 adult children are not allowed to leave the house. They've essentially been conditioned to like grow up as children, like in a childlike state. They haven't like matured in any kind of way. The dad, so there's a you know, a guy and 2 women. These are the children. They're sort of like maybe early 20s or something. But they're completely like child, you know, they've got the minds of children.
They've not been socialized.
They've not been socialized at all.
No.
And they are, for example, an entire new vocabulary is like built, is also brought into the house. So for example, like that one of the kids, you know, like discovers here's the word zombie. And asks the mum, what does that word mean? What does the word zombie mean? She goes, where did you hear that word? And says, oh, I heard, you know, dad say it or whatever. And then the mum replies and says, a zombie is a small yellow flower. And like, there's just multiple examples of that.
Yeah, they've just been shielded from the outside world
completely
to the point where they wouldn't be able to function in the outside world.
Exactly that. The dad gets a prostitute for like regularly for the son, and she kind of comes along and then like the other daughters get a little bit like jealous and like of it, but again, like all of this is existing in this strange like parallel universe in which like just all of these characters aren't like expressing really any emotion. It's just this really like kind of staccato like performance of like how to speak. And anyway, I just think it's so totally unique. You don't see, it's insanely unique. It's insanely like surreal. You really won't see kind of much, well, really anything like it. And I think it's got enough like kind of horror elements in there. You know, there's some blood occasionally.
I mean, like, there's like from the actual description, it sounds like like if you just listen to the synopsis, you'd think it was like on some like Joseph Fritzl kind of thing. But
I was actually going to say it's almost like a sort of this keeping them there in this sort of strange Joseph Fritzl, but maybe less physically abusive. Although in some cases,
because it's not a dungeon like it's like
it's a house.
They live in
a nice house with a pool.
They're living in privileged surroundings.
And so they're told that they're basically told by the parents that they can only leave the house when their first dog tooth grows, which is your canine tooth, basically. Like it has to grow and fall out. That's what they're told by the parents. So obviously, you know, like they can never leave the house. Is the idea until you know, unless, you know, in some like freak accident the canine tooth falls out or whatever, and when they do leave the house they have to stay in the car because the car protects them from, you know, like everything else. And you know that it is sort of like a proper like kind of kidnap, you know, film in that sense, but almost to like label it that way is to ground it too much in the real world. You know, because it's just a thing unto itself. The parents, we don't know why they're doing this. We don't need to be explained why they're doing this. It like none of that has to really serve anything. And I kind of love when a film, to be honest, mate, I sort of just love when a film says "fuck you" respectfully to its audience and succeeds. Like I think there are films that sort of have like a bit of contempt for its, and maybe not contempt for its audience, like, but there are films that try and say "fuck you" to its audience respectfully, and like maybe don't work for certain people in certain ways. And maybe this is one of them. You know, it depends on like who is actually watching the film and the context you get it in. Like I would say that like the new Thor film like kind of says "fuck you" to its audience, and for me doesn't work at all. But and then like I really enjoyed like Tenet, for example. A lot of people didn't, because they were like, nah, he's, you know, Nolan's flown too close to the sun or whatever with it. But yeah, this is one of those ones where it's just like, I don't want any hand holding. Just show me what you're going to show me. And again, like we were saying earlier, I don't know what moment to moment is going to happen next, and that's just where you want to be when you're in the right hands. But you're right in the sense that if I'd seen this film before I'd seen The Lobster, I think it went like I watched The Lobster and then I was like, wow, I've never seen it. And then I went back and watched this one like first. And then I only watched Alps actually in the last like year. That's a good one to check out if you've not seen Alps. It's the next one he does in Greek. Yeah, it's very weird again as well. It's not really horror, but I think Dogtooth is a bit more horror adjacent than that. But yeah.
This is it. Like you couldn't call like The Lobster or The Killing of a Sacred Deer. You couldn't call them horror, but you just knowing that like that world, like knowing that you couldn't function in that world. Like someone, like, I'm not sure if it was a tweet or like someone had like, or if it was something that someone had screenshotted from Tumblr, but I saw something. Like literally the other day, I think someone might have tweeted it, where they said like flipping, if people aren't allowed to leave heaven, isn't it basically a prison?
Right. Yeah.
And that's something that that's something that kind of makes sense, like, you know, because like in relation to this, because like these
definitely
people have like the children have effectively been imprisoned and they're growing up in you know, the perfect house with the perfect garden.
Utopia. Yeah. Well, what at least the parents are trying to make out is a utopia to them. Yeah. But we all know it's a dystopia. You know, we all know it's like a lie. We all know it's a lie, and that's what like fucks you up so much watching this film. Is like, well, you know, they don't know any better, so is it okay for them? But we're all just like, well, they've not been socialized at all. So what's going to happen? They're just going to live until a ripe old age and die in this house. Yeah. You know, what happens when you know, I mean, I don't know. You don't rationalize it this much, but you know, like now I'm just going off on a train of thought, but I'm like, well, what happens when the parents die? Then do the kids not know how to like, anyway, it's, well, that's a spoiler anyway. The parents don't die, but you can't really spoil this film. It's a bit too weird, and it's really
like when we say a film is unpredictable and you don't know what's going to happen from minute to minute. That's normally because it's been written in a crazy way, or there's loads of crazy things happening in this film. The reason we can't predict what's going to happen next is because we don't understand people who haven't been socialized to this degree. We don't understand how how the mind of someone who's never had outside stimulus would work.
There's actually only one moment right at the very end, I'd say, where we can, I'd say, quite like kind of tragically predict what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
And that's, you're right. I mean, that's like the only time in the whole narrative where it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, everything you've learned about how to live and how to, you know, socialize and how to like exist in a world. Well, that's all going to come crashing down on these people in some way or another because of this. But it's really bizarre. I mean, even the ending, like I've seen people complain about the ending because it's so abrupt. And just like it comes out of nowhere, and that is true, but that makes me just love it more. I just something like this, I'm just like, you know, they raised money for this. People gave and invested money to make this thing, and it's fucking great. And it was nominated for best film at the Oscars. It got a bunch of nominations and won a few like awards internationally. And yeah, man, I don't have enough good stuff to say about Dogtooth, or really any Yorgos.
The thing that cracks me up here is like, I just pulled it up on Google to just quickly reference things.
Yeah.
You know, before the on your Google search, it'll show you like this the ImDb or whatever, and then Google gives you the people also ask.
yeah.
Which is the other things that people have Googled in relation to this film. And the top one for Dogtooth. What was the point of Dogtooth?
Yeah, I mean that it's a really valid question, and I like to think that whoever asked that only had like love in their heart when
Yeah.
they were asking. They were like, I love this, but what was the point? And yeah, there is you could totally say that there's point to this film though.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a great social satire.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to look at it that way, but you also don't have to. You know, it kind of has a bit of everything and everything and nothing. You know.
Again, that is the whole style, like, because like flipping there's such a minimalism to the way he makes his films, not visually, but in terms of there's such a minimalism to the communication between his characters. You tend to have to fill the gaps in for yourself, and then you come up with the questions to ask. Like,
yeah, this was definitely the one where like I was, you know, for my first short film here, trying to you know, either consciously or subconsciously, like take some like inspiration from you know, Yorgos Lanthimos, and how successful I've been with that. Your mileage may vary, but you know, it's I just can't get enough of his films, really. I say that, but I haven't seen any of his shorts, so you know, maybe I don't have the right to say that. but I'll have to check some out. Yeah, man.
Do you know what, like flipping, like, because we've had films that are like really good to talk about. So normally, like flipping, like these Zoom ones have got like under an hour, but we sort of gone like way over.
Oh shit, we already?
Well, we got like a spoiler alert, like flipping. I've had to edit several things because I'm not paying for full price Zoom at the minute. So like we did. So the first two we've got over an hour with the first two recordings, and we got this one's running on here. And like, I really like that flipping conversation about Dogtooth. So should we just like finish up by hitting some honourable mentions effectively?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
because like you've been absolutely fantastic, and like rather than trying to do everything in one podcast, I'd just like to get you on again at some point.
Oh, mate, yeah, anytime, man. This is great. I could do this all day. So
yeah, man. 100%. And if you're at Chester at some point, like because I've got the studio as well.
Definitely.
We got a studio. We got a beer fridge, so you can hit the 4K. So we'll do this in front of 4K cameras with a beer and a comfy sofa. Shout out, Damn Studios for providing.
Excellent. Yeah, cool, man. I'm definitely up for getting. I mean, I just have so many more that I was like gonna go through as well. Annoyingly. But yeah, do you want to go with one first?
What's call it? Another one I was going to suggest Bad Biology.
Don't know it.
That's a film by Frank Henenlotter, who did Basket Case, and
right.
Like this is a more comedic one. It's by Frank Henenlotter, who did Basket Case, Brain Damage, Frankenhooker, and all them ones. But in 2009, he made a film with R.A. the Rugged Man.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So here we go.
And it concerns a woman who, whenever she has sex, she gives birth to a baby within like a matter of hours. And she's taken to just doing it because she just enjoys the experience of these pregnancies, so she just ditches the babies.
Wow. Well, as a new parent who, you know, obviously stood with a woman, you know, my wife in labor for some time, you know, for several hours while our daughter was born. I'm sure that'd be right up our street. I'll make it like a family viewing. That sounds great.
She ends up bumping into a guy who she gets involved with, and he's got a massive sentient penis that he has to keep injecting with drugs so it doesn't drag him off into mischief, as it were. So pretty much you can imagine what you can get for like, you know, it's a very funny film, very good vibes, but R.A. the Rugged Man wrote a lot of it. So suddenly, brilliant. Like, you'll have the woman, like, doing a kind of like voiceover thing, and it'll be this most incredibly well-written, literate stuff, like in the middle of this, like fucking monster penis drugs movie.
Amazing. All right, well that's added as well then. Yeah. Well, I had so many to shout out, man. I was like, just gonna. I mean, I had two more that were like sort of on the list proper, which was Freaks from 1932.
Oh hell yeah, Todd Browning's
Freaks, mate. Like that's just a classic, obviously.
Yeah.
And probably more just horrific in the fact that it was kind of the circumstances surrounding the making of the film is kind of a bit even more horrific than the film itself, where it's just like it was trying to it claims that the film was in servitude to these circus sideshow acts, basically, who obviously have all kinds of different disfigurements and all this stuff, and that's how they make their living. But really, even on set for that film, there were reports about the rest of the cast, the able-bodied cast or whatever, being
we should mention it's called Freaks because it's about a freak show, and he used actual circus freaks.
Yeah, from and in the in the 30s and stuff, and that just hadn't been so it used they use actual circus freaks in it, and it's got a very famous the one of us google gobble scene where it's just they're essentially it concerns this woman who basically plots to kill this dwarf. She's one of the actors she's one of the performers in the circus, but she feigns to fall in love with this dwarf who's really genuinely in love with her. But she's taking the piss out of him the whole time, and he doesn't, he's too sort of blindly in love to realize it. But then she's plotting to get his inheritance at a certain point, so she's plotting to off him. And anyway, the making of the film, which involved all of these quote unquote circus freaks, was basically reality kind of mirrored the art a little bit, in the sense that they would throw in
it's the 1930s, man. At that point we weren't giving rights to women,
even
the white
over.
ones, you can imagine how traveling circus performers with physical disabilities were treated.
It's also it's 60 minutes long, so nice and lean for anyone. The original cut was 90 minutes, and because audiences and the studio execs, I think it was MGM, they were really grotesqued out in the test screenings and all that kind of thing, and so they actually cut it down by 30 minutes, and that film no longer exists. It's a lost film, the full cut of Freaks. What I would pay to see the full cut of Freaks, that would be insane. So that's obviously a good shot, and I do think it's one of those ones where it's unsettling the entire way through, so maybe that's kind of the offbeat thing. That you and Freddie spoke about Deerskin,
which I saw recently. Did you get a chance to watch that?
What's it called? I haven't yet. I've been too busy watching films about flipping talking glory holes.
Talking glory holes, mate. It's definitely up your street. I mean, it's a very Quentin Dupieux, and I haven't seen Rubber in a minute as well, and I would really want to watch Rubber again. But basically, Deerskin's great. I mean, you guys, spoke about that on the other episode anyway, so that was another one. I wanted to shout out Men, which was this year. Alex Garland. Don't know if you saw that. That definitely.
I haven't yet. Flipping. One thing I'm really excited for in October is they're opening the New Chester Market, and they're flipping we're getting a picture house cinema, and we haven't had a cinema in town that's walking distance from my house. So I have to go to Cheshire Oaks to go to the View, and the buses there are really unreliable, and that was it was Men and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent are both films I missed this year because I bought a ticket and a bus didn't turn up when it was
fuck off. No way. Yeah. Oh, that's so frustrating. I mean, both of them, The Unbearable Weight is great as well. I've
got that on Blu-ray. And I'm gonna go on a blind buy with Men.
you've got an HMV, haven't you? Close to you too.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I heard you on another episode. Like you were talking about just like going into the HMV and like browsing around like the different like sections of the Blu-rays, and that's like my life when I can sneak away and do that, and then just like I end up like I'm just gonna like sink my family's finances just based on trying to get like buy more Blu-rays.
Hey, if you want to if you're picking up hard copies of films, I'll tell you a little secret that flipping like CEX is kind of popping again.
Oh yeah, I've heard this, and we've got one in.
People are buying 4K UHDs, and like now it's like proper. It's like people who are into collecting are trading in their Blu-rays, like, and
yeah, man.
There's
Let's go.
We're back in the era you can walk in with a tenner, because obviously like a lot of them are quite cheap. Walk in with a tenner and walk out with like 5 discs of like good films. It's just, it's just, you know, we're out of the era of just like the only like films they got in there a flipping like copy of Talladega Nights with what should we call it, like cakes on the cover.
Well, Reading's
kind of popping again.
Reading's quite like arty in places, so I'm hoping that people have been like, you know, buying like really great kind of maybe some more obscure like you know, Blu-rays and stuff, and like trading them in, because then I'll be all over that. I'm gonna have to walk into the CEX a bit more. But yeah, man. There were so many more films as well that I wanted. I'm sorry, I've overran this as well, mate. I was gonna go on about like. I was going on a whole John Carpenter thing. I was going to do a whole Cronenberg thing. I was going to do a whole Lynch thing.
I could comfortably do what should we call it, a full like John Carpenter pod. Like maybe
let's do that.
Maybe we should do that near a Halloween. That'd make sense.
Yes, let's do it. I'll rewatch Halloween. And mate, I'm all over those.
I'm
funny games.
I'm rebuying all the John Carpenter again. Like,
nice,
because I bought a 4K player a few months back, but I haven't got a 4K TV yet, and that's turning up this week. So I've been like buying, so I've been buying like 4K discs and like not watching them. Like I've got They Live.
Lovely,
I've got there's if you go on Amazon, there's like a Dutch disc. A Dutch thing that's like, I think it's like I paid like 40 quid. It's got the UHDs of Prince of Darkness, flipping They Live, Escape from New York, and The Fog. So I've got all them, and like tomorrow I'm probably going to buy The Thing for the 7th time in my life.
there's about like 20 different copies of The Thing, like in terms of like which labels are bringing it out, because I swear they've got like a Criterion, they've got an Arrow, they've got like a Shudder, they've got I swear they got like every one of them, and then they just got a standard Blu-ray release they did like back in, you know, whenever. We could just do a whole episode on The Thing at some point. I mean,
I could talk about that all day, like.
Yeah, like I was gonna go down a whole like Lynch hole potentially. Talk about like
Lynch is another like that's a whole podcast in itself.
Inland Empire, like that whole thing's just like it's horror, but it's not. It's sort of I don't know, you know, Mulholland Drive, same thing. Raw, I was going to talk about. Did you see Raw?
Big fan of Raw. I flipping like I saw someone post about today, and you know, it's and like obviously Titane.
Oh yeah,
man.
Have
you seen Titane yet?
No, I've not. Sorry, but I know I like. Yeah, that's on my big one on my watch list too. Fucking like, well, Irreversible. You know, Jesus. Like just. I mean, just again, is it horror? It's definitely horrific. Like at certain points, I just like
Climax from No Way. Like
man.
We did like the episode that just came out today as we're recording is one with my mate Tim, calls himself Double Barreled. And we did like our uncomfortable comfort films. But the one episode I did with him before that, we did our 5 favorite emotionally devastating films.
Yeah.
And like
was it No Way heavy?
Flipping like I thought I only want to do one No Way film, like, but it took me so long. I went with Climax in the end.
I've not seen it, actually. I again, no way is like, I saw Irreversible and it scarred me for life. And I'm kind of like, I've been avoiding Enter the Void, but I've avoided it for too long. And that's like a big one on the thing.
Yeah,
Mate,
that's
honestly,
on Arrow now and all, and it like so.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That it keeps. Do you know? It keeps like like popping up on Arrow and just like reminding me that I'm like, I need to like balls up here and watch that thing. I was going to go down.
He is someone like he is someone I'm like flipping like scared to watch some of his films, like, because I know it's going to be a powerful film that has like loads of impact on me, and I also know it's just going to fucking ruin my day.
It's just devastating stuff. Like, and you just know that that's what you're getting, and it's sort of like you have to be in a certain frame of mind, I think, before, and just know that you're kind of in that. Yeah. And speaking of which, like another one I recently rewatched because I think I'd seen it years and years ago, but I had forgotten about it, was Henry: Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh, that's one of my all-time faves.
What a tough hang, though. I was literally I honestly was like, I think I totally like erased it from my memory out of like sheer shock. And I've got to watch it again now. I know kind of a bit more what to expect of it. But I just think it's very like, I thought it was great, but it's just a really, really like a really tough one. He's just like acting with impunity that whole time. Like,
it came out in like like 91 or 92, I think. But it was actually filmed in like 1984. Yeah. And like that was the time when like all serial killer movies were flipping, like Jason Voorhees with a hockey mask and all this kind of thing. And like there was like the slasher movies of the day, the like killer movies of the day. They were very disconnected from reality, and like
monster the monster
the killings are for entertainment, and like he just flipped it on its head and said like with just the harshest reality,
mate, like 100%. And it's just like that, it just starts and shows all these bodies of these women and just has this really, really slow zoom back from these hills. And it's like, I liked it in the sense that I was just, again, it was a tough watch, like once it sort of gets to the end and they're like watching that videotape and everything like that. But it's like, at the start, like I like that it's just the camera's also very far away as well, so it shoots everything kind of long lens at the start when it's showing like Henry, and it's got like, and the music tells you how to feel about it. It's like, no, you don't want to get close to this guy. It's like really, really like, this is a dangerous individual, and it's
just like and it's just like, we know who he is, and like the woman in it, you just see her getting attracted to it, and you're like, how are you not seeing these red flags? And
it's all over the place.
It's just the whole time she's on the lilo with the shark fin approaching her and just having it. That's what it is. It's a shark's fin just approaching her through the whole thing.
That's right.
And we can see it from the first frame of the movie.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Couple more real quick, man. Like, have you seen Picnic at Hanging Rock?
Yeah.
Like, again, is it horror? Is it mystery? Is it kind of, I don't know, like, it freaked the hell out of me. Another one, you don't know. I was with Adam. I was with like, as in Shuffle last night. We were chatting a lot about films and stuff. I said I was coming on your show, and I was like saying what we were talking about, and we kind of moved on to like films that you don't know is a horror. You don't know it's a horror until it becomes a horror, and you think it's like one genre and very, very, like, almost seems to like firmly root itself in one genre and then turns it to a horror. And a really good one of those is Bone Tomahawk.
Oh yeah.
Bone Tomahawk? Like, you think you're just watching a Western.
Do you know what? Flipping, on the episode that just came out today with Tim, we were talking about Bone Tomahawk on that.
No way. I listened to like the first like 10, 15 minutes or something of that one as well. So I clearly didn't get to the bit, but that's wicked. Yeah. You like that one, do you?
Yeah. It's S. Craig Zahler, like it. Yeah. Yeah. Flipping man, he's, as a filmmaker, he's got a bit of controversy surrounding him. Like, because I think he skews a bit more conservative with his views, and like, so people like sort of look at it through that lens. It's like, there's certain films that, like, you know, it's like people feel a bit of a way about some of his stuff, like, you know, when you see who he's portraying as the villains and all that, like, you know, and like, you know, he did Dragged Across Concrete, and like, you know.
Well, you guys were talking about you guys were talking about Wreck, the guy who did Wreck, and what's his name? The guy who did Dashcam, and that was really like,
Rob.
Something, yeah.
I keep thinking of Rob Thomas, not Rob Thomas.
Fuck him anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So no, I don't know, but like, yeah, he like that seemed like, I haven't seen either of those films anyway, but that was a really interesting thing where it's like,
it wasn't who did Wreck, he did Host.
Oh, Host, sorry, right, yeah. And,
which is a funny one we mentioned, because we're on the last 2 minutes and 48 of this Zoom call, which is how Host ends.
Yeah, so, perfect.
Yeah, like, it's probably not worth starting another one. So we'll cut it off there, and we'll definitely do more of these. But so other than your short film debuting at Fright Fest on Sunday the 28th, Prince Charles Cinema 101 Discovery Scene, you can cop individual tickets for that. You don't need to attend the festival in full.
10:45 a.m.
Is there anything else you want to shout out? You want people to get eyes on? Shout out your socials, any of that?
No, man, that's fine. No, yeah, I think the film is great. Yeah, if you can make it down to the Prince Charles 10:45 on that day. Annoyingly, I'm actually not even there because I'm out of the country, but I know you're going to be there, which is amazing. I'm very grateful.
I'll be there.
You're coming to support. So that's wicked. In terms of at Marlo Rapper, that's Twitter. TheoMarlow.com. You know, I'm a commercial video director and an editor, and you know, if you need stuff made, I'll make it.
You did Adam Rose special, didn't you?
Yeah. No, we spoke about it. Oh no, sorry, yeah, I did some editing for it. I did do a little bit of editing, extra editing for it.
I was just thinking about that, because like flipping that like he's flipping like superstar now, like, and it all kind of started like when he dropped that special.
Yeah, that's the one. It was the subtitles,
so,
sure. Which
flipping 100. So you could take 100% credit for that, I think, because you did editing on it.
Adam's amazing. Adam's hilarious, man. We used to work with him quite a lot at the Hook, so we were very lucky to say that we started that as well. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Okay, we're under a minute, so I'm going to leave it there. It's been the KSC podcast. Thank you, Theo. We'll see you again very soon. Peace.
Legend, mate. Thanks for